January 2026. The world watches, holding its breath. In the grand hall of global politics, a game of chess is underway. The pieces? Nations. The stakes? Civilization itself. And for the first time in a generation, a single player, President Donald Trump, is about to make a move that could shatter the board. His supporters call it strategic unpredictability. His critics call it reckless abandon. But one thing is clear: the global order, already fractured by conflicts in Ukraine, the Middle East, and Venezuela, is about to face its ultimate test. We're going to dive into a chilling hypothetical. What if, in 2026, a series of calculated, audacious moves by the Trump administration escalates into a full-blown World War III? How would it start? Who would be involved? And what would be the devastating cost? This is not a prediction. It's an exploration of the razor's edge we walk on, where one wrong chess move could plunge the world into darkness.
To understand how World War III could ignite, we first need to set the scene for early 2026. The Venezuela precedent. Weeks prior, a swift US-led intervention successfully ousted Nicolás Maduro in Venezuela, a move praised by some as decisive, condemned by others as an illegal invasion. This act reasserted American unilateral power and set a dangerous precedent. Iran's escalation. Emboldened by what it saw as US overreach, Iran significantly ramped up its nuclear program, threatening to withdraw from the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Tensions in the Strait of Hormuz, a vital oil choke point, were at an all-time high, with near-daily skirmishes. China's ambitions. Beijing continued its aggressive expansion in the South China Sea, completing new artificial islands and militarizing them despite international condemnation. Economically, a trade war with the US was simmering, with both sides imposing crippling tariffs. NATO's fragility. The transatlantic alliance was strained, with several European members questioning their commitments and expressing fatigue over conflicts far from their borders. Russia, observing these cracks, began a massive military buildup on its western flank. This was the chessboard, volatile, interconnected, and primed for a shock.
President Trump, having campaigned on a promise of America first and a hard line against economic rivals, makes his first decisive move. Citing China's unfair trade practices and militarization of international waters, he declares a full naval blockade of the South China Sea. The order: no commercial vessel can enter or leave Chinese ports without US inspection. The intent: to cripple China's economy and force them to the negotiating table. Trump's advisors believe Beijing will back down, seeing it as an economic, not military challenge. China's response? Beijing sees this as an act of war. They cannot allow their economy, which relies heavily on sea trade, to be strangled. Within 24 hours, Chinese naval forces are mobilized. A US destroyer, attempting to enforce the blockade, is fired upon by a Chinese Coast Guard vessel. It's a low-grade engagement, but the lines have been crossed. The first shots of a global conflict have been fired.
The world is now split. NATO is in disarray, with some European leaders condemning the blockade, while others hesitantly support the US. Russia issues strong condemnations, but watches for opportunity. Iran's calculation. Seeing the US preoccupied with China and emboldened by its own escalations, Iran makes its move. It launches preemptive missile strikes against US military bases in Saudi Arabia and the UAE, while its Revolutionary Guard attempts to seize control of the Strait of Hormuz. US counterstrike. The US retaliates with overwhelming air power, targeting Iranian nuclear facilities and military command centers. Israel, feeling its existence threatened, launches its own strikes against Iranian proxies in Syria and Lebanon. The Middle East erupts into a regional war, sucking in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and potentially even Turkey.
The conflict now spans 2 continents, but Europe remains divided. France and Germany call for de-escalation, while Poland and the Baltic states demand NATO invoke Article 5. NATO's fragility exposed. Trump, consistent with his America First stance, implies he will only defend NATO members who contribute their fair share, further weakening the alliance. This fuels Russian ambitions. Russia's move. Seeing a divided NATO and the US military stretch thin, Russia launches a limited intervention into eastern Ukraine, claiming to protect Russian speakers and secure its borders. This is a direct challenge to the post-Cold War order and a final test for NATO. If NATO responds, the war is truly global. The war, initially fought with conventional weapons, begins to flirt with the unthinkable. Cyber warfare. Global internet infrastructure is under constant assault. Power grids fail, financial markets collapse, and communication systems are disrupted. This cripples civil society and fuels panic. Economic collapse. Oil prices skyrocket to $500 a barrel. Global trade ceases. Food shortages become severe as supply lines are cut and agricultural production is disrupted by conflict and cyber attacks. Mass migrations begin. The nuclear shadow. As casualties mount and conventional victory becomes elusive, the rhetoric escalates. Russia hints at tactical nuclear options in Ukraine. China warns against any nuclear threats against its territory. The world enters a Cuban Missile Crisis scenario on a global scale, with the possibility of limited nuclear exchanges becoming terrifyingly real.
If World War III were to occur in 2026, the aftermath would be catastrophic, regardless of who wins. Human cost, millions, if not billions, dead from conflict, starvation, and disease. Economic ruin, the global economy would be in tatters. Decades, if not centuries of development would be erased. The billionaire glitch scenario might seem like a dream compared to this. Geopolitical reshaping. The United Nations would likely collapse. New alliances, new superpowers, and new borders would emerge from the ashes. It would be a new dark age, forcing humanity to rebuild from scratch, haunted by the memory of a game of chess played with too little foresight.
The scenario of Trump starting World War III in 2026 isn't about blaming one leader. It's about recognizing the inherent fragility of peace. It's about the dangers of escalating rhetoric, the lure of unilateral action, and the terrifying domino effect that can occur when the major powers of the world push too hard. The chessboard of geopolitics is not a game. It's our shared reality, and the stakes are too high for any misstep. What do you think? Is global conflict an inevitable outcome of shifting powers, or can diplomacy always pull us back from the brink? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Alternative Scenarios as we continue to explore the terrifying what-ifs of our future.